And a very good Monday afternoon, 12 noon Eastern time. But whatever time zone you happen to be in, whether it's the last West Coast, the middle, somewhere else in the on the planet, because we do go, we're podcasting, so we podcast all over the planet as far as that's concerned. So, and of course, our numbers have been showing it. We got listeners throughout the world listening to the show. So, thank you very much for listening. And just a reminder, we're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as, like we said, podcasting on most of the podcast platforms, the major ones, that is, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google. Well, okay, we're Googling. That's the way it is. So thanks again for listening. Thank you very much. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. Got a lot to talk about today. We have a couple of baseball games, as usual, 2 games on tap to talk about today. Only 2, and sometimes, normally we have 3, but today there's only 2 that the pros seem to be liking a lot more than the others. That's Washington against Chicago and Cleveland against the Angels. That's Washington against the Chicago Cubs, by the way. Anyway, so we'll be talking about that. We'll go into great detail as to what direction the line is moving on those games, as well as in which direction the pros are going as well. We're also going to take a look at the futures situation as far as the NBA is concerned. Playoffs are going to be starting tomorrow, so we'll give you some odds on those games coming up as well. There's also going to be some play-in games that'll be taking effect as well, so we'll kind of go over that schedule with you as well. And we, of course, we also have some handicapping tips as far as baseball is concerned. This is baseball season. Basketball and hockey is about coming to an end, so there's no sense in going into too much detail about that. So we're going to be spending a little more time talking about baseball, trying to get you through this baseball season until the NFL cranks up in September. So that's the story there. And of course, as usual, one of the first things that we do is we take a look and see in which direction the pros are going as far as no, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look and see in which direction yesterday took place. Boy, it's kind of rough this afternoon for some reason. Can't understand it. Trying to get everything all put together today was kind of one of those rough days, one of those rough mornings, as they say. But we're going to take a look at what happened yesterday in the world of sports as far as betting is concerned. So I want to apologize for the little stumbling and mumbling, but hey, that's life. That's the way it happens. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. So to begin with, let's take a look at the National Hockey League. Now, all season long, we have been talking about the National Hockey League and the favorites, how well they've been doing throughout the entire season. If you were betting favorites in the National Hockey League, you did very, very well. They dominated the betting scene as far as hockey was concerned. Then all of a sudden, once the playoffs began, it seems to be going in the other direction because the underdogs, they went 2-1 in the first round playoff games because you had the upsets by the Wild at plus 135 against the Golden Knights, and the Islanders were a plus 120 against the Penguins. The Lightning was a minus 130 at the Panthers, and that was the first chalk to win as a dog. The Dogs right now are 3-1. Like I said, the only favorite so far to win was the Lightning, being a minus 130 on the money line against the Panthers yesterday. So 3-1 is the total, with upsets in the overtime as well. Now, the overs went 2-1 on Sunday, so the over-unders are tied 2-2. Now, we're going to be talking about playoff numbers now instead of the season. The season's over. We'll be giving you stats and numbers as far as the playoffs are concerned. Now, in a regular season game played after Sunday's playoff action, the Flames, minus 142, beat the Canucks 6-5 in overtime. The Unders' slim regular season lead was cut down to 50.5%. Meanwhile, first period Unders improved. They're at 50.9, almost 51%. But it looks like the dogs has come out barking a little loud in this early playoff situation as far as hockey is concerned. I hope you guys that are betting hockey, if you've been kind of watching them real close, because you've been doing very well if you've been betting on the favorites. Now they say the worm has turned, as they say. So kind of take a closer look at the underdogs as well. Meanwhile, in the NBA, the favorites went 12-3 straight up. It's the final day of the regular season, but they went 9-5-1 against the spread. You had a push by the Suns, who are 2-point favorites against the Spurs. Now, the upsets were by the Thunder at +8 as an 8-point dog against the Clippers. Timberwolves were a 7-point dog against the Mavericks. The Bulls a 7-point dog against the Bucks, plus the Hornets, who were 6.5-point dogs against the Celtics and covered in their losses. Okay, Celtics +12. They were 12-point underdogs and they covered. The Hornets and the Celtics both covered despite losing their games yesterday. So the favorites, they finished the regular season at 51.2%. The overs went 9-6, and they extended their lead to 50.4%. Major League Baseball, the favorites went 7-5, with the Reds, Rockies, Nationals, and Diamondbacks, and Mets and the Rays all closing as a pick'em. Now, again, when we say they're a pick'em, we're talking about Las Vegas lines. You may be looking and hearing the show saying, hey, wait a minute, I bet on that game yesterday. It wasn't a pick'em. It was a plus -1, -110, or a +110 or whatever. But as far as the numbers are concerned, we're talking about Las Vegas. They usually don't differ very much throughout the country, but there could be a half a point different in either direction. But as far as Vegas was concerned, those games were all pick'ems. The upsets were by the Marlins, the Orioles, the Angels, the A's, and the Mariners. The favorites are now 326 and 265 straight up, but only at 55.2%. The overs are 9-6, and the unders, their lead was cut down to almost 51%. So that's the story as far as what happened yesterday in the world of sports, as far as betting is concerned. That's the most important thing as far as we're concerned, okay? Betting is critical in that kind of situation. Whether they win or lose, we really don't care. We just want to make sure that they are covered as well. So taking a look before we get to our first break, I want to take a look at the NBA play-in games, and they start tomorrow. Game 1 in the East and Game 2 in the East, okay? Indiana, a 3-point favorite against Charlotte. That's a 6:30 game tomorrow. Boston is a 2-point favorite against Washington, okay, at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So game 1, you have the East on the 9 team and the 10 team. In the East, you have the 7 and the 8 as well. Now, Wednesday, game 3, okay, Memphis, a 3-point favorite against San Antonio. That's at 7:30. Game 4 is the Los Angeles Lakers. They're a 7-point favorite against Golden State. That's a 10 o'clock game on the East Coast. And Thursday, the East winner of Game 1 plays the loser of Game 2. That's going to be on Thursday. That's going to be at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Meanwhile, on Friday, the West winner, the winner of the game there, Game 3 against the loser of Game 4. That will be on as well. So that's the story as far as the play-in games are concerned. We're going to take a look at the futures bets when we come back from our break. But before we get to the futures in the NBA, we want to talk about some baseball. We want to tell you about the 2 games that are on tap for today. Let you know how the line movement is going in that situation, as well as where the pros are going, where their money is going in those situations. So we're going to take our break, and when we come back, that's the first thing we're going to do. We're in the sports wagering zone. You'll be back right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live right here in Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We're on Blackjack Television back on the East Coast. And of course, we're also on most of your major podcast channels as well on Amazon Music. We're on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere. You can get a hold of us anytime you want. So anyway, let's take a look at the baseball situation for today. We have two selections that the pros and the line movement is concerned with. And we're also going to give you a third game that we kind of like here, okay? I'm going to tell you about it, but it's really not part of the whole package of where we're doing the pros' choices. So to begin with, at 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the Washington Nationals, who are 16-20, playing the Chicago Cubs, who are 19-20. Now, both of these National League non-division teams are coming off series wins. The Nationals just took 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks, and the Cubs just took 2 or 3 against the Tigers. Now, in tonight's opener, the Nationals come in with their lefty, John Lester. He's 0-1 so far this season with a 2.25 ERA. The Cubs come back with their righty, Adbert Alzolay. He's 1-3 with a 4.5 ERA. And as we look at the line in this game, it opened with Chicago, a modest minus 125 home favorite. The Nationals are plus 115 road dog. Now, the pro money has really come down hard on the Cubs. They steamed Chicago from that 125 opening up to minus 145, a big move. Now, home teams that have a 10 cents or more steam in their favor, they're at 60% so far this season. Well, the difference between 125 and 145 is definitely more than 10. Now, teams receiving 15 cents or more of steam, and they're coming off a win, such as the Cubs are doing right now, okay, are at 59% so far this season. So those are two stats you might want to take into consideration because you're going to be laying some heavy wood on this particular game. The Cubs have done well against lefties this season. They're 9-3, but they're 10-17 against righties. Chicago is 13-8 while playing at home this season. The Nationals are on the road. They're 7-10. The Cubs are 10-8 as a favorite. The Nationals are 6-14 as a dog. The total in this game is 8.5. Now, the under is being juiced up on this game to minus 115 on this total. The forecast calls for high 50s. The wind will be blowing in from right field at 10 miles per hour at Wrigley Field today. So that's why looking to the under may be the way to go. Both teams have been profitable to the under so far this year. Washington is 23-12, Chicago 21-17. So in this particular game, the pros are on the Chicago Cubs. But again, like I said, be prepared to lay a little heavier wood because that 145 may even, we've seen it going up to 150 at some of the houses as well. Meanwhile, the late game tonight, a little around 9:30 Eastern Time, the Cleveland Indians, they're 21-17 out at Los Angeles to play the Angels, 17-22, kind of like a reverse mirror thing there. Both of these teams, they're both looking to bounce back from losses that they just had on the road, okay? The Indians just dropped 3 of 4 against Seattle, and the Angels just lost 2 of their 3 at Boston. Now, tonight's series opener, the Indians come in with their lefty, Sam Hentges. He's 1-0 with a 3.29 ERA. And the Angels come in with their southpaw, Patrick Sandoval. He's got no record so far this season, but he does have a really high ERA. 6.14 is his ERA. So, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with Los Angeles listed as a short minus 125 home favorite, and Cleveland a plus 115 road dog. Now, the public is betting the plus money with the Indians because off their records, they are the better team. However, despite all of this lopsided support in their favor, Los Angeles has moved up from being a minus 125 to minus 135 on the money line. What this means is that the pros are on a reverse line movement on the Angels, with the pros fading the trendy dog Indians. The home teams receiving 10 plus cents of steam in a non-division game are 60% this season. We could also be looking at a higher scoring game in this game. The total is at 9. Some of the books are juicing up the over to minus 115 on the money line. So the forecast calls for temperatures in the mid 60s. I mean, they are in Los Angeles. 7 and 10 mile per hour winds blowing out to center field. Okay. So that's why the over is getting all this action. The Angels are going to rely on their bats in this one. They're hitting at 250 this season, which ranks them 5th in the league. But Cleveland, they're hitting at 209, which ranks them number 29. So in this particular game, you got the Cleveland Indians and the Los Angeles Angels. The pros in this game are on the Angels, okay? So once again, the two games so far, but that are picked by the pros, and as far as the line movement is concerned, in the first game, you got the Cubs against the Nationals. The pros are on the Cubs. And in this game between the Cleveland Indians and the Los Angeles Angels, the actual pros are on the Angels in this game as well. So those are two games that the pros like. We're trying to keep within those parameters, but because there's only two games, we thought we'd throw in a third game. And we're looking at the Tigers against the Mariners. Now, this will not count towards the stats that we do on the pro system. This is just another game. If you're interested in betting, you got maybe a plus 145 on the money line on this game with the Tigers. So if there's something else you're looking for, an outlier, let's just say, this Tigers Mariners game to us here at the station really like that game. So if you're thinking about it, that would be your third game for today. The Tigers against the Mariners, with the Tigers really being up there. Could even go for as high as plus 150 on the money line. So it might be worth a bet. Not bad. Laying out $100 to win 150. So that's the story in that situation. Now, once again, just give you an update as to how well the system has been doing. Yesterday, we had 3 plays. Out of those 3 plays, we had 2 losers. We had the Phillies against Toronto. We had Toronto, and we had Toronto, and the Phillies beat them. And of course, the Washington-Arizona game, we had Arizona, and Washington won that game. So we had 2 losses, 1 win with the Cubs against the Tigers. We had the Cubs in that game. So yesterday we had 3 plays, 2 losers, 1 winner. The day before that, 2 winners, 1 loser. The day before that, 2 winners, 1 loser. The day before that, 2 losers, 1 winner. So just looking back over the week, kind of give you an idea as to how it's been running. Now, totally over the entire season so far, we've had 125 selections, 69 won, 55 lost, then you're at a 55.2% number, 55.2 win percentage for this particular little system, way of picking, whatever you want to call it. That's the story there. So we're going to take our second break. And of course, when we do come back, we're going to take a look at the futures bets as far as the NBA is concerned for the playoffs. So just a reminder that you're listening to the Sports Wagering Zone. And of course, we will be back. Like we said, we do 3 commercial breaks. Each one is of about a minute duration. So we'll be back right after this. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple Podcast, Google, right? We're over there as well. Spotify, Spreaker, you name it, we are there for you. Anyway, that's the story as far as baseball is concerned. Once again, just to recap those three games we talked about, two of them are, of course, the pro picks, and they are the Cubs over Washington and the Angels over Cleveland. And we also threw in a third game, which kind of we like. It looks at 140 plus 140 on the money line. Looks like it may not be a bad choice. A little shot on that game. The Tigers against the Mariners, looking at the Tigers in that particular situation. Now turning to the NBA once again, because the regular season came to an end yesterday, and now the playoff format is set. Now, in the Eastern Conference play-in tournament, the Hornets are going to face the Pacers, who are 3-point favorites. The Wizards are going to face the Celtics. The Celtics are 2-point favorites. And in the Western Conference, the Spurs will take on the Grizzlies, who are 3-point favorites. And the Warriors are going to play against the Lakers, who are 7-point favorites. But here's an updated NBA futures odds thanks to BetMGM for this postseason. Now, to win the East, the Nets are at a minus 110. The 76ers, plus 300. The Bucks are plus 375. The Heat at plus 1,200. Hawks at plus 3,000. Knicks at 3,500. Celtics, 4,000. The Wizards at 5,000. Then we jump up into the big numbers. The Hornets at 15,000. The Pacers at 20. That's the story in the East. Meanwhile, to win the West, the Lakers are plus 200. Clippers, very close, plus 260. Jazz at 325. The Suns at 700. The Nuggets at 1,400. Mavericks at 1,600. The Blazers at 2,500. The Warriors at 5,000. The Grizzlies bring up the bottom with 12,500. Now, to win the NBA title, that's just to win the different conferences. Now, to win the NBA title, the Nets are plus 225. Then the Lakers are plus 425. So the Nets are the favorite team to win the NBA title. Lakers plus 425. Clippers 600. 76ers and Jazz are both at 750. The Bucks at 900. Suns at 1,600. The Nuggets and the Heat are tied at 3,000. The Mavericks at 4. The Hawks and the Blazers are both at 6,600. The Warriors are at 8,000. The Celtics and the Knicks, they're into the 10,000 mark. The Wizards at 15,000. The Hornets and the Grizzlies are at 25,000. And bringing up the rear, the Pacers and the Spurs are at $50,000 on the money line. So you lay out 100, and if you're lucky enough, the Pacers or the Spurs, you can come back winning $50,000. But again, the reason why it's that high is because the probability or the possibility of that happening is slim to almost none. That's one way to take a look at it. So that's the story as far as the NBA futures are concerned. I know you can look them up other places. Just want to let you know about them just in case you haven't heard about them as yet, kind of give you an idea as to what's going on. And also just want to take a minute to let you know about our little newsletter that we've been talking about. The newsletter that will definitely entail giving you odds earlier in the morning. In other words, by 9 o'clock Eastern time, 9:30, somewhere in that time zone, time area, we're going to be able to give you the lines on the particular games for that day, how they're starting out. As far as baseball is concerned, it might be of some great value to you because a lot of games are played in the afternoon. Sometimes the show's about ready to go on, they're ready to start, or it starts right after the show is ending. Either way, and you'd like to find out and know which direction the pros are going. This will help you if you are involved in that type of situation. If you're not, then of course it's of no interest to you. But also in addition to that, like I said, we have a lot of statistical information that's of great benefit to you as a handicapper. Now, I know here at the show, we're primarily contrarians. We're looking at underdogs as our number one source of picking, but most of you guys out there are still involved in you doing the nuts and bolts of doing handicapping, and you're looking for various different edges and things of that nature. So we're going to bring those to your attention as well via an email, because we will talk about them. But of course, if you listen to them on the air, yeah, you're paying attention, you're kind of getting the idea of it. But then a week or two later, when it comes time to use that information, you forgot all about it. And this way, at least by having the newsletter going into your files as far as your emails are concerned, you can bring yourself up to date as to what those situations are. So that's the story there. Very simply, just send us an email. Just send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. The Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. And just let us know if you're interested. If you are, just say, yes, I'm interested. We'll get back to you once we get it all put together. Right now, we're still formulating everything, trying to get everything put together as far as what we want to do for you, okay? And we'll see if that works out or not. Once again, the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's how you get a hold of us. Not only for that, but if you have any questions or comments, you can send them there as well. So let's take our final break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at, again, some ideas and thoughts about underdogs and betting baseball on underdogs, okay? Because there are a lot of them. There's 15 games. Let's say there's 15 games in a day. And out of those 15 games, say 8 or 9 of them are underdogs. How do you figure which one to take? You're not going to bet every single one of them, okay? I mean, you could, but the idea is that you want to handpick some of the ones. So we're going to go into some detail as to what to look for as far as the underdogs are concerned. So let's take that final break, and we'll be back in the zone talking about baseball right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network and most of your major podcast platforms as well. Now, we're talking about underdogs and baseball. So one thing you have to understand, betting on baseball is different than betting on, say, football, basketball, okay? Because baseball is predominantly a money line sport, which means that all you have to do is pick which team is going to win. Now, bettors also have a lot of games to choose from compared to other sports. I mean, in the NFL, yeah, you may have a schedule of 15 games for the day, but some you're going to have earlier in the middle of the day. There'll be a late night game. There'll be a Monday night game. There'll be a Thursday night game. But in baseball, there's usually about 15 games a day, 15 games per day, in fact. Over 2,400 games are being played throughout the entire season in baseball, as long as the COVID situation doesn't escalate. Now, if you're new to betting baseball, or if you're looking to kind of refresh what you've been doing, here's some easy ways to help you turn that profit and to avoid some real common mistakes. One of the big mistakes in betting baseball, you want to avoid the big favorites. The public loves betting on favorites because, after all, they're supposed to be the better team. They got the better odds. So people look at it and say, oh, it's got to be better because they have a better odds and they're expected to win. However, the sports books, they know that the public has this bias. So in order to cover themselves and to take advantage of this bias, they shade the lines toward the popular teams, which forces the bettors to lay overpriced numbers on those games. So if you're constantly laying 200, 250, 300 on the money line, okay, you're assuming a big risk with very little reward. So you're laying 300 to win 100, okay? Now, if you like big favorites, you might be better off taking them on what we call the spread, also known as the run line. For example, instead of betting a favorite at minus 300 on the money line, you could bet the team to win by 2 or more runs on the run line. And the run line is at minus 140 on the money line. So those are two ways that you can kind of look at it. But the important thing to remember is you want to avoid the favorites. Another thing is you want to look at those divisional underdogs, because to break even betting on the spread on the over-under sports such as football and basketball, you have to win. We always use this number, 52.38 exactly, but 52.4 is close enough. Now, that's the percentage of your plays that you have to win. That's only if you're using that minus 110 juice, which is the standard juice, okay? Now, one advantage in baseball is that if you avoid the big favorites and you focus on the underdogs, you can win it under that 50% clip and still turn a profit because of the money payouts. Thinking like plus 110 on the money line, plus 130, plus 175, they go up that high. Now, of course, it doesn't mean you should bet every dog, like we said. The key is focusing on divisional dogs. They perform much better than the underdogs that are playing outside of their divisions. This is a fact. This is due to the built-in familiarity. Teams in the same division, well, they play each other maybe 19 times a year or so. They know what to expect. They know the opponent's scouting reports. They know the managerial tendencies. They're even familiar with the stadium because they've played all those games there. So they have that advantage, or that inside advantage, if you want to take a look at it. This helps laying that playing field and making it level. And of course, in this situation, it also benefits the dog, okay? But also, what's very important is monitor the line movement. The way a line moves can tell you a lot about where the public is, but more importantly, where the pro money is going. The goal is to bet against the average public. They bet based on gut instinct. They bet on their biases. Place yourself on the side of the house. And most importantly, be on the same side as the wise guys who have the respect of the books and win more than they lose. Now, track how a line moves from opening to closing. If a line is moving toward a team, that's a good sign that the pro money is in its favor. Now, a reverse line movement is also a great indicator of where the pro money is going as well. This is when the betting line moves away from the popular side toward the unpopular side, the dog side. Steam is important as well. This is typically when you see a line move 20 cents or more in one direction. And also, look out for those late moves that happen right before the game. That's when the limits are the highest, and that's when the biggest moves come in. So just a little thought to take a look at. We like underdogs. If you're going to think about betting underdogs, like I said, don't bet every one of them. These are the way you can kind of pick the ones that may have a better possibility of winning. So that's the story with baseball. Meanwhile, there's some news about football as well, because, the Packer fans, they aren't the only ones that are on edge. What's going to be happening with Aaron Rodgers? Also, the schedule makers are also worried as well. The NFL, they're saying that they're concerned about what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers, and they want to have trouble determining how many times to put Green Bay in the prime time. Now, so according to Howard Katz, he's the league's senior vice president of broadcasting, he said they really have this situation and it's making them very nervous because in the end, the Packers are still featured pretty well early in the year. They play on Monday Night Football, in the second week of the second against the Lions, and Sunday Night Football the following week against the 49ers. They're also part of a doubleheader to start the year off in the fourth week of the season. Now, later in the year, the Packers have 3 more primetime games. They play the Cardinals, the Bears, and the Vikings, although those games, they could be flexed out because that's part of their agreement. The Green Bay Packers, they're still the Green Bay Packers with or without Rodgers. They're a great team and they're a great brand. They said that they started to think about some of the permutations of the schedule, and ultimately, he didn't think that they would get traded. We couldn't solve for something they didn't know. It was pretty deliberate the way they maxed out the Packers early in the season. So that's the whole thing. Rodgers, who's been frustrated by years of being left out of personal decisions, he's currently trying to force his way off the Packers, while the team so far looks like they're determined to keep him. So that's the story there. So not only are the bookmakers in a quandary, the networks, the NFL, everybody is all upset because, hey, we're talking big money here. I mean, who's going to want to watch the Packers if Rodgers is not the quarterback? Now, yeah, the Green Bay fans may want to watch the game, okay? But as far as being in a primetime situation, most people are going to switch to the other game, to the other network, in other words, okay? During the early games and the afternoon games, you have 2 networks involved, Fox and CBS. Of course, in the night game, now you got NBC involved in that late Sunday night game. You have ESPN involved as far as the Monday night games are concerned, the Thursday night games with Fox. When you have that only one game coming on at 8:15, 8:20 on Sunday night, and it's the Packers, and it's without Rodgers, not many people are going to be playing that game. So that's the story. Somehow, as we all know, it works itself out. We'll be keeping an eye on that as well. In the meantime, taking a quick look, in case you tuned in early, about the baseball games that are on tap for today and which direction the pros are going and leaning. With the Washington Nationals against the Chicago Cubs, the pros are on the Cubs. With Cleveland against the Angels out in Los Angeles, the pros are on the Angels. Those are the only 2 games that we have as far as pro selections go. But we did throw in a third game that we kind of like. Kind of looking at this schedule today, looking at some of the dogs in this day, and we kind of like the Tigers and the Mariners. We like the Tigers in that game against the Mariners. Once again, however that turns out, that's has nothing to do with the original system of working and betting on games that are picked by the pros. Just a kind of a side bet. If you want to take a look at it, the money line is up somewhere around plus 145, plus 150. So putting just a token bet on that game might bring in some pretty good change. So that's the story for today. I want to thank you very much for listening and just kind of let you know we're here every day, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, 12 noon Eastern Time, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts. We're also on Google Cast. We're also on Spotify. You name it, you can find us. It's not very difficult. So thanks again for listening. I hope you have a very pleasant Monday. It's the start of a new week. If you're betting on any of the games today, I hope you have a very profitable Monday as well. So until tomorrow afternoon at 12 noon Eastern Time, whatever time zone you're in, it could be morning, it could be late at night, depending where in the world you happen to be located. So that's the story. We'll be back again tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Time. Until then, have a very, very pleasant Monday. But again, if you're betting, I hope you have a more profitable Monday as well. Goodbye, everybody.